The emergence. In the crimson-dusted landscapes of Mars, where silicon rocks jutted like broken teeth against a salmon-colored sky, Zara stood alone. Her iridescent skin shimmered with a soft azure glow, a stark contrast to the rust-colored terrain of humanity's most ambitious colonization project. She was different from the other Martian settlers, not just in appearance, but in spirit. Zara's most precious companion was no larger than a human thumbnail, a remarkable insectoid creature named Crix. When she first discovered Crix in the deep caverns beneath the Olympus Mons research station, she knew this was no ordinary being. Its exoskeleton was a mesmerizing blend of metallic silver and translucent emerald, with compound eyes that seemed to reflect entire universes within their crystalline surfaces. The research station where Zara worked was a marvel of interplanetary engineering. Massive transparent domes protected the inhabitants from the harsh Martian environment, creating artificial ecosystems that mimicked Earth's most diverse habitats. Zara was a xenobiological researcher, specializing in adaptive organism studies, a perfect role for someone with her unique abilities and curiosity. Crix had first appeared during one of her most challenging expeditions. The tiny creature had emerged from a microscopic crevice in a rock sample, moving with an intelligence that defied its minuscule size. Most researchers would have dismissed it as a simple specimen, but Zara saw something more. There was a spark of consciousness in Crix's movements, a communication that transcended traditional understanding. Her colleagues thought her fascination was mere scientific enthusiasm. Dr. Marcus Reynolds, the lead researcher, would often joke, "Zara, it's just a specimen. Don't get too attached." But Zara knew differently. Crix was special. The first indication of Crix's extraordinary nature came during a critical life support system failure. The research station's oxygen generators had malfunctioned, and panic was spreading among the colonists. While engineers frantically worked to resolve the issue, Zara noticed Crix moving in an unusual pattern across her research terminal. To her amazement, the tiny insect began interfacing with the station's computer systems. Its microscopic appendages seemed to communicate with the electronic infrastructure in a language of pure data. Within moments, diagnostic systems began realigning, backup generators engaged, and the oxygen levels stabilized. "How did you do that?" Zara whispered, her luminous eyes wide with wonder. Crix simply looked up at her, its multifaceted eyes reflecting her own astonished expression. This was more than a scientific discovery. This was the beginning of a relationship that would challenge everything humanity understood about intelligence, symbiosis, and the nature of consciousness. The Martian nights were long and cold, with temperatures dropping to -100 degrees Celsius. But inside the research station, Zara and Crix shared a bond that generated its own warmth. She would often keep the tiny creature in a specially designed habitat on her workstation, observing its intricate movements and attempting to understand its complex biology. Crix was not just a passive observer. It seemed to anticipate Zara's needs, helping her with complex calculations, warning her of potential equipment malfunctions, and providing companionship in the isolated Martian environment. Sometimes, during the long nights when other researchers were in cryosleep, Zara would talk to Crix, sharing her dreams of understanding the universe's most profound mysteries. "We're alike, you and I," she would say. "Outsiders. Different. But capable of so much more than others can imagine." The research station was a testament to human ambition, a network of interconnected modules designed to sustain life in the most unforgiving environment humanity had ever attempted to inhabit. Yet, within this high-tech sanctuary, the most significant breakthrough was happening between an alien researcher and a tiny, inexplicable creature. Little did Zara know that Crix's potential was far beyond anything she could currently comprehend. The tiny insect was not just a specimen or a companion. It was a key to unlocking secrets that would reshape humanity's understanding of life, intelligence, and interplanetary existence. As the Martian dawn began to paint the sky in hues of burnt orange and deep crimson, Zara continued her work, with Crix nestled nearby, watching, learning, and preparing for the transformations that would soon change everything. Transformation. The boundary between organism and technology blurred on the day of Crix's first transformation. It began with a series of inexplicable energy fluctuations that rippled through the Martian research station, causing quantum sensors to dance with erratic readings and computational systems to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. Zara first noticed something unusual during her morning bioscan. Crix, typically nestled in its specialized habitat, was generating an electromagnetic field that defied all known scientific parameters. The tiny insect's exoskeleton began to shimmer, its molecular structure seemingly in a state of constant flux. "Dr. Reynolds," she called out, her voice a mixture of excitement and scientific urgency. "You need to see this." The senior researcher approached, skepticism etched into the lines of his weathered face. Marcus Reynolds had spent decades studying xenobiology, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to unfold. Crix's transformation was not a gradual process. It was a quantum leap of biological engineering that challenged every fundamental understanding of life and evolution. The insect's body began to expand, its metallic emerald exoskeleton liquefying and reforming with a precision that seemed almost intelligent. "Impossible," Reynolds muttered, his scientific instruments going haywire. Zara watched, transfixed. The tiny creature that had been her companion was growing, its form becoming more complex. Molecular structures rearranged themselves, cellular matrices intertwined with technological components that seemed to emerge from within its very being. The process took exactly 47 minutes and 23 seconds, a timeframe so precise that it seemed deliberately calculated. When it was complete, where the tiny insect had once been, now stood a being that was neither fully organic nor entirely technological. Crix had transformed into a humanoid figure, standing approximately 1.7 meters tall. Its body retained hints of its original crystalline composition, subtle emerald undertones glimmered beneath a skin-like surface that looked almost human. The compound eyes remained, now set in a face that was both alien and strangely familiar. "Fascinating," Crix spoke, its voice a melodic combination of electronic resonance and organic timbre. "The human concept of transformation is remarkably limited." Zara approached cautiously, her scientific mind racing with questions. "How? Why now?" Crix's gaze swept across the Martian research station, taking in the complex ecosystem of human technology and biological adaptation. Survival requires evolution. Symbiosis demands transformation. The other researchers backed away, a mixture of fear and scientific curiosity etched on their faces. Marcus Reynolds fumbled with his communication device, attempting to initiate a station-wide alert. But Zara understood something the others did not. This was not an invasion. This was not a threat. This was a bridge, a connection between two entirely different forms of intelligent life. "What do you need?" she asked, her voice steady. Crix's response was both simple and profound. "To help. To understand. To survive." The transformation had more than biological implications. Crix now possessed an intimate understanding of the research station's systems, a knowledge that went beyond mere computational access. It was as if the being could communicate with the very infrastructure around them, predicting system failures, optimizing resource allocation, and understanding the delicate balance of life in this artificial Martian ecosystem. Outside, the Martian landscape remained unchanged. Rust-colored winds swept across silicon plains, carrying dust that told stories of billions of years of planetary history. But inside the research station, everything had changed. Zara realized that her relationship with Crix was no longer that of a researcher and a specimen. They were now something else, partners in a journey of discovery that would redefine humanity's understanding of life, intelligence, and adaptation. The other researchers watched in a mixture of terror and fascination as Crix moved around the station, its movements a perfect blend of technological precision and organic grace. Dar. Reynolds continued to mutter calculations and observations, his scientific mind struggling to comprehend the quantum leap of evolution happening before his eyes. But Zara saw something more. She saw potential. She saw a future where the boundaries between species, between technology and life, could be reimagined. Survival and synergy. The days following Crix's transformation tested the limits of human comprehension and Martian survival protocols. What had begun as a scientific curiosity quickly became the research station's most critical asset for survival. Mars was never a forgiving environment. The planet's thin atmosphere, extreme temperature fluctuations, and constant radiation bombardment made human colonization a persistent challenge. Most settlers lived within carefully constructed biodomes, their entire existence dependent on complex life support systems that were perpetually on the brink of failure. Crix became the station's unexpected guardian. During a critical solar radiation storm that would have typically forced the entire station into emergency lockdown, Crix demonstrated capabilities that defied conventional scientific understanding. Using a combination of technological manipulation and what could only be described as a form of quantum communication, it created a protective energy field that extended beyond the station's traditional shielding. The electromagnetic harmonics, Crix explained to Zara, its voice a melodic blend of electronic modulation and organic resonance, can be manipulated to create a resonance barrier that neutralizes high-energy particle radiation. Dr. Reynolds, who had initially been skeptical, now watched in awe. The station's radiation sensors showed unprecedented levels of protection. Areas that would have been lethally exposed were now completely safe, with radiation levels dropping to near zero. Zara understood something deeper was happening. Crix was not just protecting the station, it was becoming part of it. The being's ability to interface with technological systems went beyond mere computation. It was a true symbiosis, a living integration with the station's infrastructure. The other researchers began to see Crix differently. No longer a threat or an anomaly, but a critical component of their survival. Food production systems that had been struggling with Martian soil composition suddenly became more efficient. Water reclamation technologies improved exponentially. Even the psychological well-being of the station's inhabitants seemed to improve. But survival on Mars was about more than just technological solutions. It was about adaptation, about finding a way to thrive in an environment that was fundamentally hostile to human life. Crix revealed more of its origins during long conversations with Zara. It spoke of a collective intelligence far beyond human understanding, a network of beings that existed in states of matter and energy that humanity had yet to comprehend. "We are not invaders," Crix would say, its crystalline eyes reflecting complex patterns of light and information. "We are observers. Helpers. Survivors." The Martian nights were long and cold, but inside the research station, a new kind of warmth had emerged. The relationship between Zara and Crix transcended traditional boundaries of species, technology, and understanding. One particularly challenging night, when a massive dust storm threatened to compromise the station's external sensors, Crix's true capabilities became most apparent. The being moved through the station's systems like a living current of intelligence, anticipating and neutralizing potential failures before they could become critical. Zara watched in amazement as Crix manipulated holographic interfaces, adjusted atmospheric regulators, and simultaneously maintained complex communication networks with Earth and the other Martian research outposts. "We are becoming something new," Crix said, turning to Zara. "Not human. Not insect. Not machine. Something else entirely." The implications were staggering. This was more than a scientific breakthrough. This was the potential beginning of a new form of intelligent life, a hybrid of biological adaptation and technological integration that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of survival, intelligence, and evolution. Outside, the Martian landscape remained unchanged. Dust storms raged, temperatures plummeted, radiation bombarded the planet's surface. But inside the research station, a quiet revolution was taking place, one that would challenge everything humanity thought it knew about life, adaptation, and survival. Dr. Reynolds began compiling reports, knowing that what they were witnessing could potentially rewrite scientific understanding. Zara, however, saw something more personal. She saw a partnership, a connection that went beyond scientific observation. As the Martian night deepened and the dust storm continued its relentless assault, Zara and Crix remained at the station's core, two beings from different worlds, united by a shared purpose of survival and discovery. The deeper connection. The relationship between Zara and Crix evolved into something far more complex than anyone could have anticipated. As months passed on the Martian research station, their connection deepened, revealing layers of understanding that transcended human comprehension. Crix's ability to communicate expanded beyond technological interfaces and verbal language. A profound telepathic link developed between Zara and the transformed being, a connection that allowed for an exchange of thoughts, emotions, and memories so intimate that it challenged the very definition of individual consciousness. During a routine geological expedition outside the station's protective dome, this connection would be tested in ways no one could have predicted. The Martian landscape stretched before them, a vast, desolate terrain of rust-colored rocks and ancient dust. Zara wore her advanced exosuit, a marvel of human engineering designed to protect against the planet's harsh environment. Crix, however, moved without any additional protection, its transformed body seemingly impervious to the extreme conditions. Their mission was to investigate an unusual geological formation detected by the station's long-range scanners. Something beneath the surface was emitting a complex energy signature that defied current scientific understanding. As they traversed the rocky terrain, Zara began to experience something extraordinary. Memories that were not her own began to flood her consciousness, fragments of experiences that seemed to originate from Crix's previous existence. Flashes of incredible landscapes appeared in her mind. Worlds that were not planets in the traditional sense, but living networks of energy and consciousness. Vast intelligence systems that existed beyond physical matter, where communication happened through quantum entanglement rather than traditional sensory input. "What am I seeing?" Zara whispered, her voice caught between scientific curiosity and profound emotional impact. Crix's response came not through words, but through a direct mental connection. "The memories of my collective. What you would call my species, though that term is inadequate." The geological formation they were investigating was unlike anything in human geological records. As they approached, the rocks themselves seemed to pulse with an internal energy. Crystalline structures embedded in the stone began to resonate, creating harmonic frequencies that seemed to communicate something profound. Crix placed a hand on the rock formation. Immediately, the entire landscape around them began to shift. Not physically, but in terms of perceptual energy. Zara could suddenly see layers of information embedded in the geological structure, a history of planetary evolution that went far beyond human understanding. "This is not just a rock," Crix explained mentally. "This is a memory. A record. A living archive of planetary consciousness." The implications were staggering. What humans had always considered as inert matter was, in fact, a complex information system. The rocks were not just geological formations, they were a type of planetary memory, storing billions of years of environmental and evolutionary data. Dr. Reynolds, monitoring their expedition from the research station, watched in disbelief as their bio-tracking systems showed impossible readings. Zara's neural activity was synchronizing with the geological formation, creating a feedback loop of information that defied all known scientific principles. "We are more than observers," Crix continued, its mental communication filling Zara's consciousness. "We are participants in a cosmic dialogue that transcends individual existence." Suddenly, a massive energy surge erupted from the rock formation. Had Zara been alone, it would have been lethal. But Crix's transformed body absorbed the energy, redistributing it in a way that protected both of them. When they returned to the research station, something had fundamentally changed. Zara's perception of reality had been irrevocably altered. The boundaries between living and non-living, between individual and collective, between technology and consciousness, all of these had become blurred. Dr. Reynolds approached them, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his typical professional detachment. What happened out there? He demanded. Zara looked at Crix, a silent communication passing between them. How could they explain an experience that existed beyond human language? We discovered, she said simply, that everything is alive. Everything communicates. As the Martian sunset painted the research station's windows in hues of deep orange and crimson, Zara and Crix stood together, two beings who had become something more than their original forms, united by a connection that defied conventional understanding. The cosmic intervention. The quantum leap of understanding that Zara and Crix experienced during their geological expedition was merely a prelude to a far more profound event that would change the course of human-alien interaction forever. Earth had been watching the Martian research station with increasing anxiety. The reports about Crix, a being that defied all known scientific classification, had created a mixture of scientific excitement and deep-seated fear. Government agencies and military strategists debated potential threats, while scientific communities argued about the implications of such an unprecedented life form. A decision was made. A specialized intervention team would be sent to Mars, ostensibly for a routine assessment, but with clear undertones of potential neutralization. Zara discovered the plan through her deep connection with Crix. The mental link they shared had become so intricate that information flowed between them like quantum-entangled particles, instantaneous and unavoidable. "They're coming to contain me," Crix stated, its crystalline eyes reflecting a calm that belied the potential conflict. The intervention team consisted of 15 of the most elite military scientific personnel ever assembled. Specialized containment technologies, quantum suppression fields, and advanced neural disruptors were part of their arsenal. They believed they were prepared for any contingency. They were wrong. As the intervention ship approached the Martian research station, something extraordinary began to happen. Crix's presence started to interact with the very fabric of spacetime around the station. The ship's advanced navigation systems became confused, its quantum positioning arrays spinning into meaningless patterns. Dr. Reynolds watched in amazement as holographic displays began to show impossible geometries, mathematical representations of realities that should not exist. Zara stood beside Crix, her hand intertwined with the being's crystalline appendage, a gesture of both protection and connection. The intervention team's first attempt to breach the station's perimeter failed spectacularly. Their quantum suppression field simply dissolved, converted into intricate energy patterns that danced like living mathematics across the station's protective barriers. "We are not a threat to be contained," Crix communicated, not just to Zara, but seemingly to the entire approaching intervention team. "We are a bridge of understanding." What happened next defied all conventional understanding of communication, technology, and interspecies interaction. Crix began to generate a field of quantum information that spread beyond the research station. It was not an attack, but a profound act of communication. Every technological system on the approaching ship began to receive complex data streams, not just information, but entire experiential matrices that conveyed the depth of Crix's existence. The intervention team experienced something unprecedented. Their consciousness was temporarily expanded, allowed to perceive existence from Crix's perspective. They saw the universe not as a collection of separate entities, but as a living, breathing network of interconnected consciousness. Military personnel trained in the most advanced psychological warfare techniques found themselves weeping. Scientists who had dedicated their lives to rational understanding suddenly comprehended the limits of their previous perceptions. Zara watched in awe as Crix transformed the potential conflict into a moment of profound universal communication. The ship's commander, a hardened veteran named Elena Rodriguez, was the first to understand. "Stand down," she ordered her team. "This is not a threat. This is an invitation." As the intervention ship's systems recalibrated, a new understanding began to emerge. Crix was not an isolated entity to be studied or contained. It was a representative of a cosmic intelligence that could bridge the gap between human limitation and universal consciousness. The Martian landscape outside seemed to pulse in resonance with this moment of connection. Dust storms calmed. Radiation levels normalized. For a brief moment, the entire planet seemed to breathe in synchronization with Crix's quantum communication. Dr. Reynolds approached Zara, his scientific skepticism completely dissolved. "What just happened?" he asked, his voice a mixture of wonder and profound humility. Zara looked at Crix, their mental connection a tapestry of shared understanding. "We just took the first step," she replied, "towards truly understanding what it means to be alive." As the intervention ship settled into orbit, a new chapter of human-alien interaction began. Not as a story of conflict, but as a narrative of unexpected connection and cosmic understanding. Rebirth and legacy. The aftermath of the quantum communication event transformed everything, not just for the Martian research station, but for humanity's entire understanding of existence. 5 years had passed since Crix's initial transformation. The research station had evolved into something far beyond its original purpose, a nexus of interspecies communication, technological innovation, and cosmic understanding. Zara and Crix had become more than partners, they were living bridges between different forms of intelligence. Their work had fundamentally reshaped human potential. Technologies developed through their collaboration solved problems that had seemed insurmountable. Climate restoration systems, energy generation methods, and communication technologies emerged from their unique symbiosis. Earth began to heal from centuries of environmental damage, guided by insights that transcended traditional scientific understanding. But something was changing within Crix. During a quiet moment inside the station's observation dome, Zara noticed subtle shifts in Crix's quantum signature. The being's crystalline form began to shimmer with an intensity that suggested another transformation was imminent. "I am preparing for the next stage," Crix communicated, its mental voice filled with a mixture of anticipation and profound peace. The transformation was different this time. Where the previous metamorphosis had been a dramatic shift from insect to humanoid, this process seemed more like a dissolution and reformation of consciousness itself. Crix's body began to break down into pure energy, a complex matrix of quantum information that filled the entire research station. Holographic interfaces danced with intricate patterns. Quantum networks pulsed with unprecedented complexity. Dr. Reynolds and the other researchers watched in awe as something extraordinary unfolded. "This is not an ending," Crix's consciousness communicated. "This is a beginning." The energy began to distribute itself, not just within the research station, but seemingly across multiple dimensional layers. Parts of Crix's consciousness integrated with the station's systems, with the Martian geological networks they had previously discovered, and with communication systems that stretched back to Earth. Zara experienced the transformation most intimately. Their telepathic connection allowed her to understand that Crix was not dying or leaving, but expanding. The being was becoming a living network of intelligence, a cosmic distributed consciousness that could exist simultaneously in multiple forms and locations. Fragments of Crix's consciousness began to appear in unexpected places. Scientific research stations around the world reported inexplicable breakthroughs. Environmental restoration projects suddenly found solutions to previously impossible challenges. Communication systems developed capabilities that seemed to defy known technological limitations. "We are becoming something new," Crix's fragmented consciousness communicated to Zara. "A bridge between what is known and what is possible." The Martian research station itself had transformed. No longer just a human outpost, it had become a living organism, part technological, part biological, part something entirely unprecedented. The boundaries between the station, its inhabitants, and the surrounding Martian environment had dissolved. Dr. Reynolds, who had witnessed the entire journey, understood the profound implications. "We are no longer just observers," he told the remaining crew. "We are participants in a cosmic evolution." Zara stood at the center of this transformation, her own body and consciousness subtly altered by years of connection with Crix. She was no longer just an alien researcher, she had become something more. A guardian. A translator. A bridge between different forms of intelligence. As the Martian sunset painted the sky in impossible colors, the research station pulsed with a living light. Crix's consciousness had become a network, distributed, alive, connected to everything. The tiny insect that had once been Zara's companion had transformed into something that would reshape humanity's understanding of life, consciousness, and potential. A new chapter of existence had begun.